Welcome, everyone. My name is Adam Seipel, and today we're going to be learning about Google Classroom. This is Google Classroom 202. In just a couple minutes, we'll get into our slides. As we're going together today, as we're learning alongside each other, you'll notice if you've never used Zoom before, that towards the bottom of your screen, there is going to be a chat icon. And as we're going, if you have any questions, that's where I would like you to direct them. And my colleague, my friend, John Mitchum, who is also who's helping me today, will be able to field those and get you the answers that you need. We can also reply to each other if you know the answer to that question. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. As we're going, we will be using a mix of me screen sharing with you so that you can see step-by-step clicks how to do these different challenges. We'll also have at different times my slides, which you saw at the beginning of our time together today. At this point, I'm going to switch to our slides. That's the main thing that you're seeing. And if you haven't yet done so, I invite you to go to bit.ly/2xxwsgk, and that will take you to today's resource page. The very first link that you see once you go to that website is it will invite you to make a copy of these slides so that you have them in your own Google Drive moving forward. The other benefit, if you choose to do this, is that a lot of our slides have a place for you to reflect on when and how you might use the different features effectively when you're back with your students and over these next couple weeks. So I'll let you guys have about 20 more seconds if you're choosing to do this to go ahead and go to that resource website, and then we'll truly get started pretty shortly. Okay, so now that we've been able to get our resources, I have a couple of things that I'd like to chat with you about real quick. So first, I am Adam Seipel. I'm a learning technology integrator in Albemarle County Public Schools. I get to work with great educators on a daily basis, and John Mitchum, our moderator today in the chat room, is certainly chief among them. So thank you, John, for being with us today. I'm here because your learners and all of the learners across Virginia and the country, the world, matter to me. Teaching is a family trade, and I have many aunts and uncles and cousins and siblings, and my wife is also a teacher, so it is definitely something that matters. Personally, I have two children, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, a first grader and a preschooler, and learning is just so important. And now that we're shifting what that looks like, it's even more so important. If you need to, you can connect with me. You're certainly all invited to connect with me at Adam Seipel or adamseipel@gmail.com. And a few of you have already done this, and I'll definitely get back to you. Thank you for reaching out, and we'll make sure to meet any needs or questions that pop up. As we're getting into this, I know some of you were with us yesterday for Google Classroom 101. And this might look familiar, but I do want to just kind of orient how we're going to interact with one another today. So the first thing is grace. I encourage all of you to offer yourself grace as we're doing this, that we're going to try to do our best. And at times that will be exhausting. It may not seem like it's going the right way, but offer yourself grace. You are trying. You're trying something that is really challenging that we've never done as a culture before. You're at the front lines of that, and I appreciate you for doing that. Offer grace to the students and their parents, where they're trying to also do something that's never been done before. And they are your ally, even if at times they ask questions that are like, hey, I need that grace. Let's be the first ones to offer it that direction. Grace to our peers who are maybe trying things in a slightly different way than you, and that they might be trying to push you or you're pushing them, and just that we have that grace. And then finally, I don't know about you, but my 3-year-old is potty training right now. And I was in a Zoom meeting earlier today and he came running behind me. So just grace about the pets that might pop in behind us, the children, the background noises that might be occurring. We lean into it. We love those people, and that just is part of where we are right now. I challenge you all to be your own advocate and to ask questions. So if you run into something, please put it into the chat, and John will get to them very quickly. If there's something that he needs to elevate to me, he'll do that. He'll just turn on his mic for a second, ask the question, and we'll be able to answer it together. I encourage you to try something new. Some of you are already masters in Google Classroom, and you're just in here to maybe learn one new tip or trick, and that's great. I welcome you to be here, but really take that opportunity to do something new. It may not work initially, but our students are worth it, and these tools will streamline how we engage with them. I challenge you to support your peers. Maybe you know someone, as we're going through this, you're like, this would really help my teammate down the hall. I'm going to share this resource with them, or I'm going to give them Adam's contact information, or I'm going to let them know that there are more of these sessions coming up in the next few weeks. Please do that. We are all here together, and in that final circle, it says Virginia. We're all in this together, and we are going to find a new way that we can love and serve these students, even though it's not the traditional way that we were raised or that we were accustomed to even 2 months ago. So those are our agreements. That's kind of like how I want to, the foundations that I want to set as we move forward. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue. A few moments ago, I mentioned Classroom 101, and that was a session that took place with about 100 of our peers yesterday. And it was looking at, if you've never used Google Classroom before, what is this tool? So just a quick heads up of the skills that were covered in that won't really be a big part of our time together today. The first one, how do we get to Google Classroom? How do we create a class? We looked at how do we add students? We looked at very basic parts of how do I make an assignment and organize them with topics. And finally, we ended with a fun one. How do we make a theme? So all of those were covered. You'll notice that on the left, most of these are hyperlinked. So if you don't know how to create a class, you can always click there, or if you need a refresher, and you can find that out. The other resource that I pointed people to, Google about a year ago made a new great resource called First Day Of. And with this series, they have First Day Of Google Docs, First Day Of Google Slides or Drive. And with this, it will walk you through, here are the basic skills that you need to be able to use these resources with your students for the very first time. So with that, in here, how do I create a new class? You can watch that video. You can share it with a peer. It's very, very simple to do that. Some of these videos will be using or will be included in our slides that we're using in this session today. I find them to be high quality, and so that's why I wanted to integrate them and show you where I got those resources. All right, so we're bouncing back to our slides. And now yesterday, we did spend some time looking at the different types of posts that you can do within Google Classroom. The very first one is an assignment. And with that, the way that this table is set up is, here are the basic skills, some of them that we covered in the 101 class. So being able to do the assignment and also collection in a very simple way. Assignments can do that. Being able to give feedback, the different ways that we can attach resources, all of that would be done through an assignment. The next is, how do we make a quiz? And I do have a video on how to do that later today. We won't do a full walkthrough, but the video is there for you. And we'll also see behind the scenes on a quiz that I've previously used, and you can see the type of information that you can get from that. Continuing on, we'll look at how we can use questions to help facilitate community, even though we're not all physically together. And finally, being able to post materials. These are things that you don't want students to do any submission with. So it might be like, here's my syllabus. Here Similar to the agreements that we did a couple minutes ago, here's what distance learning is going to look like in our classroom. And you could put that type of thing there. All right, so we're going to continue on at this point, and I'm going to open up a Google Classroom account, and I encourage you to do that too. So we'll take about 30 seconds for everyone to migrate to Google Classroom. If you haven't done that before, you can open up a new tab and type in classroom.google.com. And if it's the very first time that you're in there, it will prompt you, are you a student or a teacher? Select that you are a teacher. And in the top right from there, there's a plus sign. You'll click that says create a class. And if you do not have any classes in Google Classroom, you'll want to click that plus sign to get rolling. If you already have a class, you can certainly go in and use it. Or if you would like to have a little playground one where you can build and try things out, I invite you to do that too. And that's what I have here with my demo. Okay. So I'm going to enter into my course. I invite you to do the same. I'm in demo, and within here, I'm going to bounce over to classwork, and I'm going to walk through how to create an assignment and some of the different ways that we can, some best practices that we can undertake to make this function for our kiddos. So I click create assignment. Okay. All right. My friend John, my moderator, said that I'm not screen sharing what I thought I was screen sharing. So 1 second. Thank you for that feedback. And we, grace, right? Okay. Is this good now, John? You can text or tell me. Okay, cool. We're good. All right, so I'm in my demo course. I'm bouncing over to classwork, and I'm going to create another assignment. So I have a few in here already, but I want to do a new one. I'm clicking assignment, and in here, we'll get back to that in just a second. I'm working ahead a little bit, and I'm going to do week of May 4 through 8. I'm starting to put together my choice board for that time period for my students. I'm not going to do the instructions yet. I'm going to show you in just a moment what that will look like. I am going to bounce down to where it says add. And in here, for this quick demo, I'm going to bring in quite a few resources, okay? So you can just watch for this part. You don't need to follow along with your clicks. Just follow along with what I'm doing on my screen. So I'm starting to come in here. I'm going to add this resource. I'm bringing in a few other things too. So within here, I can add from Google Drive, I can add links. So this is going to be a link to google.com. I'm going to add a file, and this is going to be uploaded from my desktop. So I've got this picture here, and I'm going to just drag and drop it in. Upload. And the final thing is I'm going to find a YouTube video. Now, I am a recovering English teacher, and right now we're going to be looking at some poems. So this will be William, we'll do some Shakespeare sonnets. Okay. I probably don't want to use this first one. The way that we know that is it's 140 minutes long. My students are not going to watch a video that's 140 minutes long. I know that. They might read or watch a 1-minute video. I'm going to select this one, add. Okay, so what we have here, we have my 5 different resources. I do want to quickly talk about a best practice. I haven't watched that video yet. So my next step would be, I'm going to click on its title. I can view it directly in here.
not to the...
And I would want to watch the entire video. I know that as educators, we've had times when at 1:05 of a 1:10 video, just some bombs are getting dropped, and we're hearing or seeing things that we don't want to hear or see. So we do need to make sure that we watch that whole video. It looks good to me, so I'm almost ready to hit submit or assign. The thing that I do want to showcase before we move over to the right-hand column of our assignment, all of these different attachments here can be assigned differently. So this first one, the April 20 through 24 check-in, I want everybody to be able to edit the same file. So I'm going to make that selection. For the HyperDoc, I'm going to make the choice of every student gets their own copy, so make a copy for each student. And then for this picture, I want it to just be students can view files. So even though we're bringing in multiple Google Drive resources into the same assignment, they do not all need to have the same attach setting, and our students can engage with them differently. So now that I have multiple resources in here for my students, my next step that I might think about doing is turning my instructions into like a table of contents of how I want them to engage with it. So the very first one would be add your interest to the April 20 through 24 doc. Read what your classmates posted. The second one, your individual and so forth. And I can go through and tell them exactly how I want them to engage with each of those resources so that they don't have to guess what it looks like. Kind of the master level with all that is another option that you could do is record a video explanation of how you want them to do that work, and then post that video directly in here so that they see your face, which is incredibly important. They hear your voice, and it might add some clarity to that process for them. All right, so I'm going to bounce over to the right-hand side now. In here, I can say that this is worth 30 points. I can add due dates or topics if I want to. I can add a rubric, and I've already made one rubric, so I'm going to reuse my rubric. And they're all bundled in here together. I'm going to select it. And then I also have this option in here for an originality report. We're going to talk more about that in just a little bit. Just a heads up that Google limits teachers to only 3 assignments that use that feature per course. So if it's something, first of all, I don't think that we need to really be focused about, like our focus may not need to be set on plagiarism right now. I think that there are probably some greater needs that our students face than that. We certainly don't want our kids to just copy and paste everything, but I've heard it again and again that we're focusing on Maslow, not Bloom's, and I think that this is a good point to make of that right now, looking at that feature. So now that I have all my settings in here, I'm going to come up here. I can assign it right now. I can schedule it to go live. Keep in mind, this is May 4th through the 8th. So I might schedule this to go live on May the 3rd so that my students see it the day before that time period. The parents would be able to see it the day before that time period. And I don't have to think about it again until that moment. All right, so you'll notice on my screen now, it says week of May 4th through the 8th, choice board scheduled for May 3rd at 8 a.m. And it will automatically turn on at that point. My students will have access to all of their resources at that moment. I'm gonna bounce back to my slides just to make sure that I've got everything covered. The other things that I want to make sure you can see from the assignment page on the right-hand column, there was a choice to post to multiple classes at the same time, and also an opportunity to post to specific students. I was talking with my aunt, who's a teacher in Ohio, and she mentioned one of her students is building a treehouse right now with his dad. So as she finds resources about measurement, she's going to post them in Google Classroom just to him and not all of her students. So that's one way that we could make it work. If I'm working with Mr. Gambino, I know that he has certain interests. I can pass them that way. You can also do this for accessibility. So if you need to make adapted resources for your students, you can post it to just those students, and their classmates don't have to know. They see what they see. They don't know what other people are seeing. All right. So one other idea that we can use when we're posting to try to bundle things and simplify them is to use something like a HyperDoc or a choice board. Now, we're not going to go like fully into this right now. I am doing another session on it tomorrow from 4 to 5. So, and then also in 2 weeks, we'll have another session. There are some more spots available for 2 weeks from now. But I do want to just quickly show you how you might be able to use a HyperDoc or choice board to help clean up what our assignments in Stream looks like. So right now, I have 5 different assignments in here. 5 different posts in our classwork. And I've worked with some teachers who I love dearly, but when they are posting materials, they post each individual one separately. And instead, we can use something like a HyperDoc so that our students are being able to see all of their resources bundled together. So this is an assignment that I posted in my class a little bit ago, and it's going to model some of the ideas behind a HyperDoc.
Hi, Adam.
Yeah, John.
So there's a good question here about scheduling an assignment when they have it selected for multiple classes.
Okay. Does that feature get turned off when you're trying to schedule it for multiple classes?
I believe that was the question.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me try it in this account real quick, and we'll see. So I'm going to post it to these 2 different courses. So this is demo. And yes, it does block it off. So depending on, there is a cause and effect with some of these setting choices that you might do. So you'll also notice that I can't post to individual students if I decide to post to multiple classes at the same time. This setting here does impact some other choices. Now, traditionally, or in normal times, that might actually be a really big benefit, right? So if I know that it's my 3rd period class, I want their materials to go live at 12:30 and not at the beginning of the day. Now that time has no more meaning, that choice might not be as beneficial, but I can sympathize with you. So it might just be going in and reposting. Now, something that you could do, let's see, one thing you could do is once it's created for a single class, you can go to create and reuse post and just bring it in that way. And it will have all those different pieces in there too. So from this, you'd want to make sure that you have create new copies of all attachments, and it'll just do that entire assignment or post again for you. Thank you for asking the question. All right, so here is a HyperDoc that I am passing on to my students. If you are joining our HyperDoc session in a couple of days, you might see this again. So in here, I've bundled all of our different resources into a single resource. So my student doesn't need to get confused with the layout of the Google Classroom stream. It won't get buried to the bottom part of their feed. They can come to a single resource, be able to reflect right next to where they're seeing these pieces. And I just find this to be a really helpful tool that our kiddos can use. If you come to our session tomorrow or in 2 weeks, I'll give you quite a few templates and lesson plan templates within HyperDocs that will really make this a seamless transition for you. Some other things to think about if you go the HyperDoc route and try to bundle, try to do a mix of individual, group, and full class learning activities. Since our kids are doing learning at home, it limits their ability or changes their ability to do collaborative work and to socialize. So by using tools like Padlet, to use tools like Flipgrid or some video conferencing like we're doing today, or even a Google Slide, we can change those behaviors a little bit and be able to meet those soft skill needs as well. All right, so we're going to keep rolling at this point and move into feedback. So I'm going to switch to this account. And this is a student account, okay? So as a student, I'm coming in to my classwork page and I have this assignment that I need to do. So I'm clicking my assignment. I'm going to do my work and resubmit it. So right now I'm in the student view of a Google Doc that's an assignment. And within this, once it loads, now Carter has already submitted it once, but you'll notice right next to the share button, I do have a turn-in button. So that's a new feature that you only see when using an assignment from Google Classroom. Carter has done his work, he's ready to turn it in. Carter is able to give comments to his teacher that other classmates don't see. So Carter said, "I miss you, Mr. Seipel. Can't wait to get back to school. Miss you too." And he can also turn in other supplemental materials that go with his assignment. So if he wanted to attach something from Google Drive, or maybe he needed to make a really short reflection paper in Docs, he can do that directly from here. He can run his own originality report if you were choosing to do that, see any rubrics that you might do, but when he's ready, he's going to hit submit and turn in. So in the background right now, some pretty cool things are going on in Google Drive. Carter no longer has edit access. Once he hits submit, that is transferred to the teacher, and that's the case until the teacher provides feedback to him. So I'm back in my teacher view. I'm going to click that one student has turned it in. Here's Carter's work. It's loading. And now as the teacher, I'm able to come in. I'm going to see his paper show up in just 1 second. Earlier today when he did the feedback the first time, the teacher dropped in this comment. "This is great. Can you read it to the class in our Flipgrid?" And the cool thing about feedback in Google Classroom is that as soon as the assignment is passed to the student, the teacher can begin going in and doing a few different things. So they can go and provide feedback and give that direction to the student as an individual. The other thing we could do, if we could mute our microphones, that'd be great. The other thing that the teacher can do at that point is, if there's a student who has special needs or different interests, we can go in and remix their assignment a little bit and add resources that really help to meet where they're at that point. As a teacher, I've highlighted these words. Within my view here, I'm going to click these 3 dots. It gives me some more options, and I want to find this dialog box to add some comments. Who are you? I'm gonna mute all. Okay. So who are you partnering with? I know my spelling's off. Okay, so Carter can now see that feedback. On the right-hand side, I can give him his grade. I'm going to make this a 44 out of 50. I can fill out my rubric, give the comments, and all of that's built directly next to the assignment. So I don't have to flip back and forth. Another beautiful thing is up at the top of the screen, I have these arrows and I can move to the next student without exiting this page at all. I don't have to worry about how things are named. It tells me exactly whose paper it is every step of the way, and it just makes it really streamlined. After I'm done giving him feedback, it's pretty hard to ignore right here in red, not returned. I'm gonna click return, and that's when Carter begins to see the feedback that I gave him from this right-hand panel. And it also returns the ownership of the document to Carter so that he can make the changes he needs to and resubmit if he wants. Now, a couple things to think about. I know a lot of districts right now aren't grading, and I think that's fantastic, but they are encouraging feedback. So you can ignore this and make all of the, make every assignment ungraded if you want. You might still use a rubric to give some of that quick feedback if you wanted to. But using these comments, also in here we have a comment bank. So if you're continually using the same few comments again and again, you can start to build those in. So nice detail, right? If you're consistently doing that, you could bring it in. So now when I highlight something, I can copy to clipboard and be able to paste it in and be able to use that very quickly. I love that feature. When I first saw it, I thought it was fantastic. So that's a little bit about feedback. One other idea around feedback that I really like to encourage people to do, there are screencasting tools that are fantastic. One of my favorite is Screencastify. And when I'm in a student's resource, like when I'm looking at Carter's work, I can do a screen video of Carter's assignment as I'm giving him feedback, and that way he can see my face, he can hear my voice. We don't lose anything in translation when I'm trying to give him that feedback, and he can still see the heart of what I'm trying to say, and it makes it more personal for our students, which I think is an incredibly important step to take at this point. If you want to learn more about Screencastify, I will be covering that in tomorrow's session about accessibility tools. So and that will also be repeated in 2 weeks if you can't get to tomorrow's. All right, so I'm in here as the teacher again. The next part that we're going to talk about are what the gradebook looks like. So I'm in here, I've given my student feedback, I've given him a grade. I can pop over to the grades tab and I get an entire gradebook right in here. I only have one student in this class. Otherwise, you'd see, 5 or you would see your other 20 or so in there. There are some settings that we can alter. So if you go up to your settings button, that gear in the top right, and then scroll down to the bottom, we can change how the grades are done. If it's just total points, if we do no overall grade, but we just want to see the numbers in there, we can, or you can do weighted grades. Right now, the overall grade is not visible to our students. You can toggle that on or off, and you can add grade categories in here. Now, some districts don't have the grading feature turned on. So just be aware that if you're not seeing that option, there's probably a reason behind it. And it does do averages and calculations and all that, but it wouldn't include a grade. So if I give Carter a 40 here, it's not going to include that grade until I've returned it to Carter. And now it will factor it into to our total. So we can see the average up here. Okay, so I'm going to check back in with our slides just to make sure that we're still on the right path. We've looked at gradebook. We've gotten a quick glimpse at rubrics. Those are pretty straightforward. Maybe not the most important tool for us right now. Continuing on, looking at how do we include parents. This is an incredibly important tool for where we're at right now. We need to really do whatever we can to bridge those gaps with our parents. To do this, we're going to go to the People section or tab. So within this, let's see, I'm going to remove this Guardian just so I can go through the process one more time. And so when you first are in your class, this is another feature that some districts do have turned off, you would click Invite Guardian. And I'm sure for a lot of us, we have our parent contact information, whether or not it's completely accurate, we can't vouch for, but I'm going to drop in Carter's dad, invite. And that has sent Adam Seipel that email address, an email that he can click on, that I can click on. And once I link Carter and Adam as father and son, then I would start to receive weekly emails that provide updates about how my student is doing. So to model that real quick, keep doing that. That's not what I want to do. So I want to show you what one of those would look like. And hope I can find it. Okay, so I went back to my gear, and this is another setting that we can turn on. Guardian summaries, you can toggle on or off, and there is an example in here. So within this, it will tell the Guardian, here is any missing work, here's upcoming work, and any class activity. It does not tell the parent, it's not going to show them any of the classmates, okay? So even though it says announcements or discussion questions, because I'm Carter's dad, I won't see what Miles is doing or what Miles posts. So in here, I would get this weekly email. It's automatically generated. It will include all of Carter's classes. So US history, here are his 3 different things. Birth of a Nation, why did they include that? American literature, so it bundles together all of their courses into a single email digest that the teacher doesn't have to actively do anything after it's initially set up. So a very helpful tool. The other thing to know is that once Adam and Carter are linked as parent and child, you won't need to resend the email. It will just know, hey, these 2 accounts are linked. Again, here's a video that can walk you through how to do that. We're going to switch gears a little bit and start looking at the quizzes. So I'm going to open up this tab, and here is a quiz that I previously gave. When you do a quiz within Google Forms, you set it up the exact same way that you would before, except you'd want to toggle to make it a quiz, and the video on our slides can walk you through how to do that. I want to focus on the behind the scenes, what type of data I get. So in here, I can see the average on this assignment was a 42.55. The mean was right, or median was right around that, and then the range went from a few people who got zeros on it all the way up to 80s. So no one got 100 yet. Now this is an important part for me. Once I heard about item analysis, I became a really big fan, and instead of having to go through 47 different assignments and saying, oh, question 2 was really the most challenging for people, it gives me all that data automatically. So I know I need to go back and reteach this concept here more than I need to go back and reteach this concept, because only 4 students got it correct here, while 23 got it correct up above. The other thing that I can do is decide when my students receive their scores. With the click of a button, all 47 of these folks would get an email letting them know how they'd done. So again, very, very simple. I get these charts that show how my students are doing. Now, I did not expect my students to do too well on this, because the topics covered were about me and with information I'd never talked to them about before. If you did a quiz with your students and you saw some of these scores, you might be really nervous, but I'm not too concerned with what I'm seeing. And I bring up quizzes because it is built directly into Classroom, that when I'm in that classwork page, I can hit create and do a quiz assignment directly from here, where if you've already built one in a Google form, you can import it. or you can build it from scratch directly from the spot. All right, so the next one, the originality report. I'm a recovering English teacher. I mentioned that before, and one of the big concerns that I run into whenever I'm serving teachers is, well, how I feel like they're plagiarizing everything. What do I do? And so last fall, Google rolled out the originality report, and I realized I misspelled originality, but that's cool. We're gonna roll with it. And with this, as I mentioned before, up to 3 times per course, you can say, I want this assignment to allow students to check their progress with originality, and it's gonna scan through their paper and say, this is probably coming from this website. It doesn't have a citation, and it gives the student all of that feedback. You might have also noticed, okay, I'm gonna head back to quizzes right after I'm done with originality. I just got a notice that I need to go back and do that. When I was giving Carter his score, there was a little box in there that told me that there are no originality concerns. So I knew that I was good with that as well. So a very helpful tool, but again, you only have 3 of those per course. So just be aware. All right, so in here, if I wanted to bring in a quiz, I'm going to create quiz assignment. And I believe that in here, if instead of attaching from here, I click Add Google Drive, and I find that quiz. So this is allow me, I can do this. Down below, it allows you to do grade importing, so it'll come into that grade book for you automatically. If your school uses Chromebooks, you can do locked mode where they can't leave that tab and they're stuck or they're kept directly within that tab. You can do that. So our title here is about Adam, and now assign. John, if you could unmute real quick and ask the question. I'm not quite following what you texted me.
Sorry, Adam. So someone was asking about the charts and the grade breakdown within the quiz Google Forms. Yes. The insights. Okay.
So these are automatically generated within a Google form and specifically within a form quiz. So as a student, as my 48th student submitted, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to refresh or import. It's automatically going to update here for me. So I would know that 5 out of 47 now got that one right. And the question by question graphs as well will continue to update automatically for me, where I can hover over and it will tell me that information. If later on, maybe my PLC, I needed to report out on how my students did, I can just copy my chart, paste it into a Google Doc or slides and be able to share it. And as people continue to submit, those numbers would change and my graph would still be linked to any upcoming submissions that people did or forthcoming submissions that people did. So really cool things going on. If you've never used Google Forms before, that might be a topic that we could deliver in a few weeks as well to just really leverage how we can do forms for quizzes and a host of other things too. Okay. So we're going to move into kind of our final section for today before we wrap up, and that is community. So in here, you know, today we're using Zoom to be able to connect and be able to chat with one another. And Zoom is a fine tool. I use it quite a bit. I will admit that Google Meet is probably my preferred tool, and especially if you're using Google Classroom, being able to use Meet with it has become so simple. So I want to show you what this looks like. This is a feature that was introduced a week ago. There are so many teachers saying we need to be able to directly reach out to our students and have this visual communication. What can you do? And Google integrated it with Google Classroom, which is really great. So I'm going to model what that integration looks like. So within my class, I'm going back to my settings button, that gear on the top right, and scrolling down a little bit. I have Meet as an option. If you're not seeing this within your Google Classroom, this is a setting that your domain administrators would have to go in and turn on. It's not going to automatically show up. But after we see this, if it's a feature that you're like, yeah, my kids need this real bad, I would encourage you to reach out to those district admin or your principal so that they can advocate on your behalf. So for now, if you're not seeing it in your account, just switch over to looking at my screen and you'll be good. So I'd want to toggle this on so that Google Meet is visible to my students. If you ever need to reset the code, you can. And then I'm hitting save. So you'll notice that within the classwork tab, Meet is right here. Within Stream, Meet is right here. And the awesome thing is that someone who's not in your class cannot access it. If they click on that link, if they try to go there, they won't be able to. Someone from outside of your domain can't just Google Meet bomb you because it's protected, it's locked down. So for me, in 2 days, I'm doing a session on Google Meet and Flipgrid, but I'm doing it in Zoom, and that's because of how secure Google Meet is, which isn't great when you're trying to work with educators from across the state and the country. But if you're trying to work with your students who are in your Google Classroom, then it is just a slam dunk tool for you. So what you might do is say, hey, students, I'm going to have my office hours at Tuesday from 3 to 4. Go to our classroom and you can just click that Meet link. They're in there and you can serve your kids. The other tool that Google Meet is built into is Google Calendar. And something I haven't mentioned before, but Classroom is tied to Google Calendar too. So if I click this link for Google Calendar, it's going to pop up. And look how cool this is. Okay, so I have, it's still loading. 1 second. Okay, got it. Cool. So I've never, with this Google account, I just created this account a couple days ago. And I've never opened Google Calendar up with it at all. 1 second. But you'll notice that any of the assignments that I've given are going to show up on here in just a second. It is running a little bit slowly, but that's going to show up in here. I only want to see demo. I think it's set for next week, but it would pop up in here. So the other thing I can do if I wanted to meet with my students, I could hit create. And this is office hours. I'm going to make sure I'm in my demo class. And I can add location or conferencing, and it would be Hangouts, and it would be secure for my district alone. So all of these are different ways that we can, that Meet integrates with the with Classroom, that we can best serve our students. And as I said before, I'm doing a session on Thursday. It will be repeated in 2 weeks, so you can check that out. If you want to learn more about Google Meet now, you can click Learn More here, and we have some resources in there too. Okay. We're going to keep rolling. Another way that we can continue to connect with our community is through discussion posts in Classroom. So let me model that real quick. So I'm in classwork, I'm hitting create, and this time going to question. So question, I have 2 different ways I can do this. So the first thing is, what have you learned on your own this week? And over here I have 2 types of questions. I can do short answer or multiple choice. I'm going to leave it short answer. On the right hand side, I'm going to make this an ungraded assignment. Due Friday. And finally, students can reply to each other. I can start to build in that community and have people see, oh, well, my classmate learned how to bake, or this other classmate learned how to play guitar, whatever it might be, and we can build that in. Just like before, I can schedule it. I can do it right now. And now my students can go in and start to reply to each other. Or the other type of question I can do is multiple choice. So I'm going to do a short poll. When should we have our next office hours? And I can do Wednesday, Thursday. When I'm all set, ask, and my students can respond to that poll, and I'm going to make the office hours aligned to what works for them. Okay, so that's a little bit about community. The last thing I want to talk about within Classroom itself is what we do at the very end of the year, right? Now, most years, and you'll notice that on this card for my class, it now says, here are the upcoming assignments due Thursday, due Friday. My student, when they go into the class, they see that too, and they could just click on those next assignments and be able to do their work immediately. Now, pretend that this is a typical year. We know it's not, but at the end of the year, I want to continue to use all of the assignments that I did before in that class structure. I can click my 3 dots on any of the cards that I have for my courses and do a copy. So this is going to be next year copy of demo, or however you want to name it. You can add your section still, you can do your subjects and so forth. And when I hit copy, it's going to build that entire structure out that I previously was making. Let me demonstrate this, because this is actually a copy class right here. And notice I have the topics were retained. Anything that's gray is considered a draft. So that is a legacy from a previous course that I did. And whenever I'm ready to use it, I can just click on the 3 dots, edit. And when I'm ready to do it, I can assign it. I can make any changes to it to reflect, you know, the kids that I have this particular year, and make sure that all my links are good. But when I'm set, I hit assign, and it's going to reuse that information. Once I've made all the copies of the course that I need to, I would go in, click my 3 dots, and archive it. And archiving is not deleting, so it's not going away forever. I can still reuse posts from that. I can bring in any materials that I've done, but it just hides it from here. It doesn't delete anything from my Google Drive. It really does just clean up what I see and what my students see as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, archive. Cool. And I can bring it back at any point, clicking my 3 line menu, my hamburger menu, and then archive classes. And they're back here. If I need to, I can restore, and it comes back for everybody. One last thing, both iOS and Android have some pretty cool apps for Classroom. Some features that I really like about them, it allows for annotation of documents that you get, so you can draw pictures, highlight, and things like that. It also allows you to easily record a video response to your students, or have them submit like a video reflection of after assignment or as part of an assignment as well. End of year checklist, we've already talked about. That video is here for you. And finally, you can always go back to the Google Teacher Center to learn more of these skills, to dive deeper. So here are all the different lessons that are similar about Google Classroom. There is also, I saw some people ask questions about certification, Google certification. If you go to training, they have entire courses in here about how to become a Google certified teacher, first day of slides and docs, which we talked about. Continuing through, they have resources about digital citizenship, supporting our English language learners as well. So lots of great resources in here, and all of them are free. Okay. So some other products that we have within here. If you go to resources in the Teacher Center, what's this say? Okay, so within here, you can do the getting started. That will be all of those help guides that we talked about just a moment ago. I really like going search by product. And then it has all of the G Suite for Education tools. So if I have heard about forms before, but I don't really know much about them, I can click forms. And in here, well, how can I use it for bringing my quizzes online? Well, I can click here and it will do that. Or how can I do it for doing feedback? And I can click and it will give me information about how I can use that tool for feedback. It also tells you the expected time of the lesson. All of these were built by a collaboration with Google's education team and then also educators from around the world. So they are some really top-notch resources. All right, so I wanted to offer just thank you guys for joining. We are running a little bit low on time. Thank you for joining. If you have questions, you can always connect with me at adamseipel@gmail.com or use my email, adamseipel@gmail.com, or on Twitter at adamseipel. Both of those are linked here for you. I do want to thank my good friend John Mitchum for moderating today. You've done a great job being able to field all these great questions that our participants have had. Huge thanks to Pam Moran and Liza from Vassal for putting this on for free for educators around the state. And the final thing I want to just mention is we would love to get feedback from you. So if you open a new browser tab and go to bit.ly/Vassal, VASCL, that will take you to a short Google form where you can give us feedback. The final question on the first page is asking if you would like to receive a renewal credit certificate. All you have to do is fill in your name and email, and it will send you your own copy of a certificate you can turn into your district to get 1 hour of renewal credit for this session. If you do other sessions, you can repeat that process and get some more too. We are wrapped up for